3 things that I want you to release or do your best to release today is we are going to post who we are. We're going to stop posting fake versions of ourselves online. When it comes to vulnerability, we decide what level of vulnerable we want to be. And finally, when it comes to comparisonitis, clear any of that negative energy by going inward and deciding what is it that you desire from what you see online and which kind of accounts are you just not willing to let stick around in your feed. Being limitless is knowing your success and your growth are built on a radical belief in yourself. Limitless is honoring your purpose, your health, and impact above all else. Limitless is never playing small because the more alive you feel in your life, the more growth and success you attract. Hi, my name is Jamie Ratterman, and I am a holistic business coach, meaning I am just as invested in growing your health as I am in growing your wealth. With 11 plus years in brand and social media marketing, I help rebellious entrepreneurs master marketing, embody leadership, and say fuck it to the hustle. This show is here to encourage you to become more radically aware of your self-imposed limits, to break free of your shoulds, and to expand your brand into a movement led by you. Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Podcast. I recently got into a conversation with a friend of mine who I have not seen in a while. She's actually a friend of mine who is nomadic. So she was traveling for almost an entire year through South America and Latin America. And I think she wants to continue. So she was sharing all about her trip with me and catching up with me. And I thought to myself, you're a travel writer. I didn't see you post this on your social. And I even asked her, like, why didn't you share these things? And she's like, well, I'm not really an influencer she was, and I wanted to make sure that I gave each location justice and I wanted to do it this way. So she ended up just talking about all the reasons why it just felt like too much. And in truth, I was just sitting there and I could not stop thinking about how if she would have allowed the travel and posting about that travel to be a part of the process, how nourishing it would be for her, how she could do like a pride scroll and find like little lessons that she learned along the way with the way in which she posted. And I sat there going like, oh my gosh, there's such a missed opportunity because she wants to be a travel writer. She wants to be able to get new jobs, new press trips, all of the above. And it's so hard for me sometimes when I realize that there's these hurdles that really stop people from being able to use social media as this big tool and being able to know that it can build such an amazing brand, life, business for you. So today's episode, I'm going to talk about the top reasons why people give up on social, because it's really important to know that you don't want to give up. You don't want to. So we're going to call out really where the blocks are. Even too, lately, I've been noticing that a collective just resignation from social, people taking social media breaks, prolonged hiatuses, and in general, finding or like not really finding the same motivation towards the platforms that they once loved. I recently had a sprinter who built a lot of his business on TikTok, and he's like, how are you using it lately? I don't know how I feel. So there's just been this shift. So within this, I can hypothesize that while COVID allowed all of us to have a lot more time indoors building our business, it did also create some toxic social media habits for some. And I want to call it out so that there's a sense of, if you have used social and it's helped you build it, let's build an endurance to know that staying on top of this new technology and the changes that come with social platforms requires commitment and endurance. I realize though that I come from a place of, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for 13 years. I've been using social media for numerous brands, over 50 businesses, and tried all of the social platforms, right? And it gets easier when you expect things to change. It gets easier to know that you get to evolve with the way in which you use it. And knowing that we get to decide what we allow and we get to decide what our relationship is. So if you are a listener to this podcast, you've heard me share many stories about how social media gets to build a magnetic business. And today's episode is what happens when you let the hard parts of social take over and in general kind of cut you off from the potential that could happen here. Now, I do share on episode 48 ways in which you can create a more positive relationship with social. But today we're just going to be calling out what is really causing the problems. So first and foremost, a big problem that I see that I honestly feel like isn't talked about enough is posting a fake version of who you are. This can be considered imposter syndrome as well. But still, social media, and you're going to hear me say this a lot during with this first reason, but social media is for you. If you are using it, it is to benefit you. Social media is for you because you are the one who is in the creator seat and benefits from what happens by showing up. Well, I have definitely had moments where I've decided to use social to help me manifest a different version of myself. Like I would go live before I was ready because I was getting to where I needed to go. I wanted to share stories, even though it felt a little bit vulnerable for me, but I manifested that version of me. That's one way I can say that, yes, maybe I posted a little bit different, but I was using it in a different path. There's an opposite end of this. The idea that we would create a social persona who is completely different from ourselves in real life has to be one of the most toxic traits. So we are going to call it out. We are not going to be fake versions of ourselves on social. Even so, it has got to be one of the biggest pet peeves when you find that you've loved this creator who shares like an open mind and a caring personality online and is absolutely the furthest thing from it in real life. Social media allows you to share who you are and what you love. Let that be the truth. Manifest a testimonial from a client or follower who says, you are just like you are online. And they're excited about that. Believe me, when I have heard this, and it's like when I'm running an event or when I see someone for coffee, I feel like I'm on cloud 9 when someone says these things to me. You are either actively creating a community of fans by how you show up, or you're creating a community of people who you feel pressure to please. So if you decide to create this fake persona or are posting somebody you are not, you're going to continue to feel like you have to please the people who start to follow that fake persona. Instead, lean into more of who you are. So you just have a community of fans. So you feel the support to be who you are. The key to social media that empowers you is for you to own that this medium gets to be what you are willing to share and how you want to help people. Take stock and see if the likes, the saves, the share, the comments are defining how you use it, and make a shift. Decide that you want your social media to represent your perspective and your purpose in life. This is what I love the most. I try to think about my social media as me writing my own biography. When I do a pride scroll and I'm looking through the things that I've posted before, I'm thinking, how amazing it was that I shared that lesson. And in 3 years from now, I'm going to feel even more proud that I made these steps. So being able to just redefine how you use it and to make sure that it aligns with who you are is going to allow this to be an empowering process. To follow the first, this is absolutely the next. Being vulnerable and sharing realistically online is absolutely essential in attracting a community. It allows you to share your true self and be able to know that life is always about sharing. Life is not always about sharing the good side. Our ability to be genuine about the inconveniences, the mental and physical hardships, and the wounds allows others to feel less alone and to bond with you as a leader and the brand in a whole new way. But let's be really clear. We are not here for ingenuine vulnerability culture. We want it to feel genuine to us, not to others, to us. So if you are wanting to think about how you want to incorporate more vulnerability in the way that you post, you get to define what your level of vulnerability is. So just like any other behavior, people can take this to the extreme. Cue the crying photos, videos, or letting people inside of their divorces, their dating issues, their debt troubles, or anything in between. Whenever I bring up being vulnerable, almost instantaneously, a client is going to go like, I hate when people post crying photos. Like this is like, it's almost immediate. Now, whenever you have that visceral reaction, it's usually telling you that it's not something you would be willing to do. It takes a certain set of ovaries, and I'm interjecting that for a set of balls, but a certain set of ovaries to share some of your deepest and darkest moments. We learn by your vulnerabilities, period. But vulnerability is a sliding scale. I remember when I was starting to post without like wearing makeup, that was one of my first steps into being vulnerable. And that's what I get to define it as. I remember even that being the beginning. And then the next thing was sharing money stories and how I worried about paying my bills when I first moved to New York. And within that too, like sometimes I'll share what my energy is like in my business and how in the past I'd worry like if I share these vulnerabilities, it means something. But knowing that I decided I want to take this at my pace, at a step at a time, and I'm going to define what I want that to be. But still, I don't think that I'm going to ever share a crying video or photo, because at least at this moment, those moments get to be mine and get to be my way of processing. You are the person who decides what level of vulnerability you are ready for. You know that vulnerability can be a wonderful way to build connection, but know that you do not have to be a completely open book and share every piece of it. Even so, this topic has been consistent with my clients. And even when I've been in other coaches' masterminds, it's been brought up of what level of vulnerability is quote unquote correct. I remember during a retreat, one of the women leaders was saying that how she didn't like that she didn't really trust herself to create this dream business that she wanted, because she recently had a conversation with who would be her soon to be ex-boyfriend, and what he had said about her made her just think that she wasn't capable of the goals that she had in place. Now, when she asked the room for guidance, I repeated a phrase that I like to live by. And I'm not sure who was the first to say it, but it's in general, it really rings true for me. Share from the scar, not the wound. So when the idea being process your feelings around whatever you're going through. So if it's a struggle because you're too tired today, or if it's a struggle that you're grieving something that you lost, whether it's a relative or money or anything in between, process that first. Allow it to start to heal before you start to share it. Now, for me, that's where I draw my line. But I can definitely say when we were talking about this during this retreat, many jumped in saying that someone was like, I like to share from the wound. I like to share while I'm bleeding, and I love it. But the idea here is that there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So just like how this group discussion brought so many different viewpoints, this is what the natural world is like. Some people are going to be more vulnerable, share more grieving moments than the next person. And that's what social media is supposed to be, right? We're supposed to use social in a way where we get to share how we are in life in the way in which we post. So knowing this group discussion brought so many different viewpoints. Your interpretation of what it means to be vulnerable online also gets to be different. You do not have to share your deepest secrets. Instead, allow yourself to be seen in an area you are ready on your own terms. So this is your challenge, and it is absolutely defined by you. And it's not about who's got the better, uglier crying photo. I promise. So this leads perfectly into the next reason people give up on social. And it's something you've heard before: comparisonitis. Or in another way, letting the way other people post on social define how worthy you are. I know I'm getting deep here because there are certainly many angles of looking at comparisonitis, but I found that the truth remains. If we decide that we want what they have, or we want to do what they do, or we want to post how they do, but think that we can't and aren't able, we don't think we are worthy. So instead of focusing on how you think they aren't posting the most realistic version, or how they trigger you by what they share, I'd rather encourage you to go inward. Does this person empower you? Does this personally inspire you in a healthy way? What is it that you desire from what they do? Go inward. Ask these questions whenever you're feeling comparisonitis towards a creator or another brand. Because ultimately, if you consistently get a negative feeling from somebody and you leave it unexplored, you'll find that it's going to continue to make you feel funky about it. So this is where it's part of that healing process, right? But also too, you can unfollow. If someone continuously just triggers you and they continue to, and like you realize, like, you know what? I just feel like they have a toxic energy towards me. Unfollow them, please. Unfollow them, please. But there, in general, there is no other environment where we can simply just delete bad energy like we can on social media. But again, it's more than just social. You are getting triggered because there is some piece of you that desires what they have. And whether it's your ego, your subconscious, or anywhere in between, you want to get to the root and find support to up-level your belief in yourself. If you see someone traveling the world, there's a piece of you that desires something like that. If you see somebody who's making a little more money than you, there's a piece of you that desires to hit those goals. Or in general, if you see somebody who is dancing or feels more the free spirit in their videos, you desire a piece of that. That comparisonitis is not saying that you can't have that. That's something deep within you that's telling you, I want that. I want that for myself. I want that for me. This is a big reason why my business is not just about strategy alone. It's being able to really uncover some subconscious patterns that stop us from going where we want to go, and to be able to have the mindset that's going to get us where we need to. This one for me takes so many forms. And for entrepreneurs who are like touting, huge money months. So like comparisonitis for me can take many forms though. So let me kind of talk about how I've worked through it for me. So for entrepreneurs touting like huge money months, I've found that I unfollow them if that's all that they give me. I sometimes will see people talking about, I have a 100K week, or I had 700K months, or whatever. I've seen so many people pop in my feed that just keep saying all about their money, but nothing of value otherwise. It's like I'm double tapping their ego, like, oh, way to go again of what it is. And again, I'm so happy that there's this potential with online business, but business isn't only about money, especially when some of them lack giving that value, like I was saying. So when I see those posts, I kind of relate it to diet culture. Like those posts that are like, lose 20 pounds in 1 week. It feels ungrounded. It seems like a money grab. And so sometimes I'll unfollow when there's when there's that sense of, I'm only going to push what's going to sell. Like the whole idea of sex sells, like diet culture, they know how to like come at you because of the quick fixes, right? So the idea of me seeing that comparisonitis, I will see when that feels too negative, it's too negative. But if there's a creator who posts amazing videos and tells beautiful stories, I will reprogram any comparisonitis I might feel with practice, let me be clear, to turn that into, if they can do it, I can too. That if someone's able to reach that goal, I can too. So I choose to see it as inspiration of what's possible. So taking into account these 3 big reasons why people tend to just give up on social, I want you to realize you can just choose differently, right? So the first and foremost, or the three things that I want you to release or do your best to release today is, we are going to post who we are. We're going to stop posting fake versions of ourselves online. When it comes to vulnerability, we decide what level of vulnerable we want to be. And finally, when it comes to comparisonitis, clear any of that negative energy by going inward and deciding what is it that you desire from what you see online, and which kind of accounts are you just not willing to let stick around in your feed. When it comes to social, and when it comes to wanting to build social media that represents us and supports us, it starts with uncovering who and how you want to represent yourself. So use this episode to, 1, know that there's so much possibility with social media that I don't want you to give up on it. I want to be the person that's cheering for you from the sidelines, telling you that if you can work through these 3 blocks, you're going to find that this can be the most supportive avenue to building the wealth that you want to receive. Take a moment, think through. I'm here to support you. or any reason any of this episode resonated with you, please take a screenshot of this episode and share it in your Instagram stories. You can tag me at Jamie Ratermann, so JamieRatermann, and tell me one thing you loved about this episode. I would love to hear your feedback, and I promise I will share it in my stories as well. Until next time, live a little more limitless.